Let's get started. It's July 1st, 2026 at 4 p.m. I call this regular meeting of the Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates to order. Clerk Fletcher, can you please read the opening statements?
I can, Madam Clerk. It is July 1st, 2026. It's now 4:02 p.m. Pursuant to the acts of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the Barnstable County Assembly of Delegates will be conducted both in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Members of the public may watch the meeting through live real-time broadcast at www.youtube.com/user/Barnstable County. The public participation guide and meeting documents are available in advance at www.capecod.gov. The County of Barnstable does not discriminate in the administration of its programs or activities on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or other category protected by state and federal anti-discrimination laws and regulations. Reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities are available upon request. For more information or file a complaint, please contact Christina Marchak, Barnstable County ADA Non-Discrimination Coordinator at jmarczak@capecod.gov. Call 508-375-6646 or visit www.capecod.gov. Members of the public may also attend the meeting remotely, and that information is available on the website as well.
Next on the business calendar is opening ceremonies. May I have a moment of silence in remembrance of our troops who have died in service to our country and civilian victims of war. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Fletcher, can you call the roll for a quorum? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson.
Yeah, just got over the bridge. I'm here.
All right, sir. Deputy Speaker Frizzell.
Here.
Delegate Fuller.
Here.
Delegate Gallagher.
Here.
Delegate Gasson. Delegate Gasson. Delegate Green.
Here.
Delegate Harder.
Here.
Delegate Killian. Delegate Killian. Delegate King. Delegate King. Delegate McKelvey.
Here.
Delegate O'Malley.
Here.
Dean Omen.
Here.
Delegate
Here.
Sampson.
Here.
Delegate Ty.
Here.
Speaker Warner.
Here.
Madam Speaker, that is 12 delegates representing 74.07% of the county's population.
Now we will consider proposed resolution.
Well,
What?
we're gonna,
We're gonna jump to this? All right.
Yeah.
Which one are we going to?
your journal.
Yeah. Well,
Here, okay. Next on the calendar is the approval of journals and minutes. The clerks have distributed a draft of the journal and minutes for the assembly meeting of June 17th, 2026 to the members prior to this meeting. Are there any corrections? Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, I sent some to the clerk. They're not, they're technical, they're not substantive.
Okay. Any others? No, all righty. There being no further corrections from the delegates or the clerks, unless there are any objections, the journal and minutes are approved as submitted. Next on the business calendar is Committee of the Whole. If there is no objection, the Assembly will enter into the Committee of the Whole to consider communications in items 8 and 9 informally. Since there is no objection, the Assembly has entered the Committee of the Whole. Next on the calendar is communications from members of the public and officials. First, we have public hearings. The first public hearing is for proposed ordinance 2026-15, authorizing the rescission of a portion of borrowing authorization previously approved under ordinance 2024-01 for the Cooperative Extension AmeriCorps Vehicle Replacement Project in the amount of $6,634.25. The public hearing is now open. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance? Oh, okay. I see no one who wants to speak. The public hearing is now closed. I beg your pardon, sir? No, that was it for that particular ordinance, which was the, okay. Okay. The second public hearing is for proposed ordinance 2026-16, authorizing the rescission of borrowing authorization previously approved under ordinance 2209 for the Cape Cod Commission capital building project associated with the purchase and renovation of office and meeting space in the amount of $4 million. And would further authorize the project to instead be funded through the use of restricted balances within the Cape Cod Environmental Protection Fund in the same amount of $4 million. The public hearing is now open. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on the ordinance? Come on up, sir, and please, I have to read that thing, right? Hang on one second. You need to press the.
Here it is. Okay. Yeah, Ken Barron, Town of Centerville.
Hang on one sec, hang on, if so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I just need to read the kind of how we follow this, but
Sure.
just, you sit right there.
Yep.
Once recognized by the speaker, members of the public must state their name and town of residence. Under the Massachusetts open meeting law, the assembly is restricted in its ability to discuss topics not on the agenda, but subjects raised during public comment may be added to future agendas. Public comment period is not a time for debate or discussion with or amongst assembly members. All meeting attendees must refrain from commenting until recognition by the speaker and are encouraged to present their remarks in a civil and respectful manner. Please do not applaud or cheer others' comments. Each participant is allotted up to 3 minutes to comment once. The speaker may exercise their discretion to offer additional time to a commenter. Staff will time speakers and give an indication when there are 2 minutes, 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining. I will recognize members of the public who are here in person first, and then any of those who are online. Please, okay, please come forward when you're on there. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, Ken Barron, Town of Centerville. Maybe I'm coming to this issue late. $4 million seems like a lot of money. I realize it's been approved. I was wondering if somebody could explain what this is actually for. Just for my benefit and anybody else that's not sure about this. Is this purchase of a brand new building or is it just renovation project? I'm not sure about that.
So that would be speaker, that would be.
I don't know if you can answer that or not. Just I get concerned about costs being spent.
As clerk,
I
Fletcher.
know this isn't a time for back and forth, but I can, Mr. Barron, and the assistant clerk, we can provide you a way to find that information. Or
Okay.
if you email us, you can just email us at assemblystaff@capecod.gov or just assembly@capecod.gov. And as soon as we get an email or a question from you, we will get you all the information on this item.
Okay, great, thanks. Also, just a side note here about Brian Morrison, the police officer being honored. Great job. I've met him many times at the hockey rink. He's a commanding presence. He keeps all the fights on the ice and not in the stands, so I congratulate him on that. Thank you.
Is there any, let's see. Anyone else who would like to speak from the audience here? If not, is there anyone online who would like to speak? Don't see anyone.
I
I don't know.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
I do see two people online. There's a Michael Miller and also a Sandy Fitzgerald. So I want them to be aware. If you're on Teams, there's a hand at the top. And so if you'd like to talk, you can press that and raise your hand. And then we'd have to unmute your mic and do all those things. So we just wanted to indicate that once.
I see no one further who wishes to speak. That public hearing is now closed. The fourth public
No
hearing.
one's, no, we're on the third.
What?
Go back one.
Did I miss one?
Yep,
We have lots of public hearing.
there you go.
The third public hearing is for proposed ordinance 2026-17, authorizing the Dredge Enterprise Fund Capital Program to rescind borrowing authorization previously approved under ordinance 2025-01 in the amount of $150,000 for the replacement of a CAT engine on a booster station, and to authorize the repurposing of remaining authorized unissued and/or unexpended bond proceeds in the amount of $76,613.01 for the CAT engine capital project for the Dredge Enterprise Fund. This public hearing is now open. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to this ordinance? I see no one who wants to speak. The public hearing is now closed. This is the fourth public hearing. Is for proposed ordinance 2026-18, authorizing general fund budget transfers totaling $81,500 for the purpose of funding information technology salaries of $1,500 and laboratory supplies of $80,000. This public hearing is now open. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance? I see no one who wants to speak. The public hearing is now closed. The fifth and final public hearing is for proposed ordinance 2026-19, establishing a Department of Emergency Management and amending the powers, duties, and responsibilities of the Department of Health and the Environment. The public hearing is now open. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to this ordinance? I see no one who wants to speak. The public hearing is now closed. Now we have public comment. Is anyone here from the public who wishes to speak to anything either on this calendar or in general? When recognizing the speaker, members of the public must state their name and town of residence. Under the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, the Assembly is restricted in its ability to discuss topics not on the agenda, but subjects raised during public comment may be added to future agendas. Public comment period is not a time to debate or discuss with or amongst Assembly members. All meeting attendees must refrain from commenting until recognized by the speaker and/or encouraged to present their remarks in a civil and respectful manner. Please do not applaud or jeer others' comments. Each participant is allotted up to 3 minutes to comment once. The speaker may exercise their discretion to offer additional time to a commenter. Staff will time speakers and give an indication when there are 2 minutes, 1 minute, and 30 seconds remaining. I will recognize members of the public who are here in person first, and then those online. All right, go ahead, sir.
That's right, Eric Schwab, Town of Barnstable. How are you today? Thank you for coming inside on a beautiful day. I've just been hearing the wildest rumors. I understand you guys are considering a tax on second homes. Is that even true?
A tax on, oh, okay, I don't know what it is.
You can't answer that. So I would just like to say that I'm hoping that we learned something from the luxury tax debacle. We sent a tax up to Massachusetts legislature without even running it by any of the towns. The town of Harwich specifically sent a letter saying that their representative did not represent them. So I'm hoping that if you are in fact going to consider a tax on second homes, that before we have to start wearing ankle bracelets to prove that we're home, I would hope that you would go to the towns for some validation. I mean, it seems reasonable to me. I understand you have the authority to ignore your constituents. I get that. But I would strongly encourage you, if you're planning something as draconian as a snowbird tax, second home tax, whatever you want to call it, that you take that to your towns and ask them what they think about it. Because, like it or not, our economy still runs on tourism. Our economy still runs on second homes. And real estate prices, love them or hate them, are supported by the ability or the willingness of folks to buy those homes. And if suddenly they have to prove that they're in the house to not get taxed, that's going to create an unreasonable burden. So I would ask that you, if such a proposal comes forward, which I understand it might, that you take the time to tap the brakes and just ask towns which you represent how they feel about additional taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schwab. Do we have, what? Okay, but I have something. Okay. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Yeah, Ken Barron again, Town of Centerville. Yeah, in regards to Mr. Schwab, I totally support just what he said. It makes no sense to have this kind of tax. And in effect, second homes are taxed due to the fact that we get a residential exemption if we live in the town. So we pay less if we live in the town of Barnstable. I don't know what the other towns. But if you don't, you get the full rate tax. So in effect, we're already taxing these people by giving us a discount. Okay. In regards to what's on the agenda tonight, I don't know if you can discuss it now, but the state audit, that's to me, that's a no-brainer. Everyone in the state should support that. We're just asking for an honest opinion and independent audit of the state expenses. Every taxpayer deserves that under any circumstance from any town, any state legislature, and even on the national level, of course. We need an audit. So I strongly hope that you will support that initiative, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron. Is there anyone else here in the, that wishes to speak? All right, then I'll go to online. I see that Sandy Fitzgerald, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm actually calling also regarding the proposed home rule petition that there's been a discussion about. Prior to this meeting, there were actually 2 attendees mentioning the traffic. And I think that these second homes, that many of them are not occupied throughout the year. And that's kind of a blessing to all of us because of the traffic that we're dealing with at this moment. But again, I do believe that proposing another tax without consulting the Cape Cod Select Boards and Town Council is wrong, especially after the fallout from the luxury real estate tax. Several towns, again, contacted the state to say that they oppose the home rule petition that was passed by the Assembly. The homes that are actually not occupied year-round, or the ones that are in question, are already subject to high property taxes. They do not impact our local school systems. They do not contribute to the water usage, and frequently they employ private security. Additionally, they create opportunities such as home watch positions almost year-round, gardeners, landscapers, housekeepers, property managers. So then rather than introducing an occupancy kind of tax program to fund affordable housing, why isn't the county potentially looking at a program that may be similar to like an FHA loan, but maybe it's a county program, or working with the local financial institutes to help these home buyers with down payments, with low interest mortgage rates, with closing costs. I just cannot stress enough that the involvement of the town select boards and the town council is crucial. And I actually believe this should be some sort of moratorium on these home rule petitions, because the public's we're not aware of it, and it's coming out and we're reading it last minute. And I believe that there should be more involvement, and especially who knows our towns better than our select boards and council. So thank you for listening to me today. And I hope again that you would please consult with your constituents or your towns before you consider another tax. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else online who would like to make a comment? I see no one who wants to further speak. So next on the business calendar is communications from the regional commissioners, administrator, and directors. Regional Administrator Michael Dutton is here on behalf of the executive branch to give a report on the most recent Board of Regional Commissioners meeting. Administrator Dutton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have a very quick update on the most recent meeting of the County Commissioners, which was held in Bourne on Monday morning. And it was a lengthy meeting, but the board used the opportunity to provide a citation or give a citation to Barry Johnson, who is the longtime clerk in the town of Bourne. He was also one of my predecessors. He sat in this seat right around the change in the form of government back in the late 80s, early 90s, I believe. I may have that wrong. But he received that recognition, and it was much appreciated. We had a pretty lengthy discussion with all 5 members of the select board in Bourne and about their concerns, their major issues that they deal with. I think right now their board stressed both bridge replacement and the impact that that will have on Bourne, as well as the dredge and how important the dredge is to all the communities, but certainly Bourne. Delegate Sampson was kind enough to join us. And so he was there too. So if I forget anything, you can certainly fill everybody in. We heard an update on the local composting initiative with Joint Base Cape Cod from Carrie Parcell, our municipal solid waste coordinator. And we also heard from Escher Cattle, who is from the Barnstable County Cooperative Extension on the tick-borne diseases and the issues around that. And then otherwise, the commissioners approved a lot of contracts, bid awards, contract extensions, appointments, reimbursements, a lot of what I would refer to as typical year-end items and appointments, if I didn't mention that. So that was essentially the board's meeting. I do want to, something I reiterated at the meeting, I also want to let the Assembly of Delegates know, today is the last day that Superior Court will be open. So as of tomorrow, the Superior Court has transitioned out of that building, as well as the probation department and all of the trial court function. So that relocation mostly over in First District Court. There is a courtroom set up in the Harborview, and so they have vacated the building. We will not be too far behind in vacating the building. We are awaiting, as you know, the renovation to the basement of the Registry of Deeds building. That has taken longer than we had expected, mostly because of supply chain issues, which I thought were long past us, but I guess we still have some issues related mostly to finishes, carpeting, carpet tiles, and so forth. So we're expecting to open that at the very beginning of August. And we will get the finance department in there for the most part, and IT and a number of other folks who will use sort of a hoteling system to reserve desks in that space. I will be located, the human resources will be located up where human services is right now. I will be located, I'm not quite sure where. So if anybody has an empty room in their house, I'll be glad to I will actually probably be rotating among current offices, the Clean Water Center, very possibly in Cooperative Extension, and this campus as well. So I'll be sort of rotating around. But otherwise, I just want to let people know that Superior Court will be closed for the time being, and probably for the next 8 to 10, possibly 12 months. We're hoping not that long. So that is what I've got, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm just curious if there's any news on, if there have been any meetings with the courts about getting compensation upfront for the remediations we're laying out for.
Great question. I have a meeting set up for later, I think it's beginning of August, with some of the court folks up in Boston, and we'll begin to have that conversation more in earnest. There's a long process to go through to change sort of that paradigm. Unfortunately, a long process, but we'll get there. But great question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So you mentioned it's 12 months, give or take. I know this is not something you can fix for sure. And is that for everybody that's currently in the Superior Court, including all the administration offices? So
It is.
everybody, yeah.
It is.
You wouldn't have some moving back sooner than others?
That's unlikely, given the phase in of construction, whether good or bad. You really won't notice very much going on there for the balance of July. But there will be work on the interior, mostly measuring work. They've got to analyze every window, and they've got to make the window order right away. So that you won't see a lot of activity, but then once construction really starts, it'll be quite a madhouse until the project is finished. So I don't anticipate, when you do a construction project, you're essentially handing the building over to the contractor, and the contractor, quote unquote, owns that building during the period of construction. So it's highly unlikely that you would see employees going back into that building anytime before it's actually completed.
And so remind me, how are we financing all this work that's going to be going on there? And where's the source of funds for that? Thanks.
So what seems like ages ago, the county approved an appropriation. The exact amount, I believe, was in the $7 million range. And so that appropriation is what's being used. We will borrow some amount of that. That building is a 75-25 split. So the trial courts use 75% of that building. We use 25%. So we will be looking for state reimbursement, and we've been assured that we will get that reimbursement for the 75% of that project, for whatever that project costs. Yes.
If I may just pin this down. So when you borrow, and you have to borrow the 100% and then later get the 75% back. So we're going to borrow in advance at a higher sum of money. Is this general obligation bonds we're doing here? And if so, is the debt service on those bonds going to be part of the operating budget as a way of paying that? Thank you. Or is it short-term borrowing, sort of stay in those bonds?
I believe so. I know our finance director is at the meeting, so I don't know if you would like to recognize Carol for a more precise answer than I can give.
Yes, go ahead, Carol Capola, Finance Director.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon. They would be sold, the amount to be borrowed would be sold in general obligation bonds and budgeted for and paid for out of the general fund, and then reimbursed by the trial courts and come in as general fund revenue.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the administrator? Okay, seeing none. Before we Before we move on to the convening of the assembly, we'd like to consider proposed resolution 2026-07, honoring Officer Brian Morrison upon his retirement from the Barnstable Police Department. Delegate Frederickson, as a sponsor and delegate from Barnstable, would you like to move the resolution?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion by anyone in the assembly? Okay, I see. If the question is on proposed resolution 20, before we do that, would you like to read the resolution, Officer Frederickson?
Sit at the table at the front. This is a truly an honor to do this. County of Barnstable Assembly of Delegates, resolutions in recognition of Officer Brian Morrison. Whereas Officer Brian Morrison retired from the Barnstable Police Department on June 30th, 2026, concluding a career marked by unwavering dedication, exemplary service, and steadfast commitment to the citizens of the town of Barnstable and the residents and visitors of Barnstable County. And whereas throughout his distinguished tenure, Officer Morrison has exemplified the highest standards of law enforcement through his integrity, professionalism, compassion, and commitment to public service, dedicated to the principles of justice, public trust, and community policing. And whereas Officer Morrison is a decorated United States Navy veteran who served 3 active duty deployments. And whereas Officer Morrison's dedication to the Cape Cod community is recognized for his deep involvement as a mentor, role model, and advocate for the young people throughout Barnstable County, serving as a highly respected school resource officer, and also generously volunteering his time with numerous community organizations. And whereas Officer Morrison's compassion, leadership, and commitment to others have positively influenced generations of residents and leave a legacy that will endure long after his retirement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Barnstable County Assembly of Delegates, on behalf of the residents of Barnstable County, hereby express their sincere gratitude and appreciation to Officer Brian Morrison for his distinguished and honorable service. And be it further resolved that the Barnstable County Assembly of Delegates, on behalf of the residents of Barnstable County, extend their best wishes to Officer Morrison and his family for good health, happiness, and continued success throughout his retirement. Presenting a copy of this resolution to Officer Morrison as a lasting expression of appreciation and admiration and gratitude of the people of Barnstable County. Signed by Speaker Susan Warner and myself, Frank Frederickson. Add a few more words to this. I mean,
You may, but may we first vote and finalize? Go ahead and sit down, sir. We just want to finish the voting on this. Since no one further wishes to speak at the moment, yes. McAfee,
Yes, I'd like to say a few words. Brian is one of those groups he's involved in.
your mic's not on. Oh, mine is.
My mic's not? Okay. There you go. One of those community groups Brian's involved in is the Kiwanis organization. And I work with Brian in the Kiwanis organization. I'm affiliated with Mashpee. He's in the Hyannis Kiwanis. I just want to say thank you for your local service to families and children throughout these many years, Brian. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Just go ahead, John.
Brian and I met probably 45 years ago.
And Brian supported many of the students from the Orleans area, along with his mother, who was a teacher at Northside High School for many years. I've known Brian for a long time. Every time I've driven through Barnstable or Hyannis and seen him, I always get a wave. And he's truly a single person for supporting the youth of Cape Cod, and I hope he continues to do so. Thank you, Brian.
Brixton, go ahead and add your comments.
Thank you. It truly is an honor to present you with that. You know, in policing, I've had a pretty long career. And historically, and in the public, you usually see people get acknowledgements for their, you know, what's perceived as police work, catching bad guys, drug dealers, saving a life, running into buildings, doing certain things that very few people will do and get accolades for it. However, there's a whole nother element to policing that exists. And we call it, you used to call it community policing. Now it's 21st century policing. But Brian has taken it to a different level where he has contributed to so many people's lives in so many ways. And, you know, he never asked for accolades about anything, but I'm going to tell you right now, Brian, the people you touch that you don't even know, that just saw you and watched you and experienced you, they, for decades, are going to come up to you and thank you. And you will be given, that's like gold. It will carry you the rest of your life. And when you see that young police officer 10 years from now that maybe you were at the youth center, that could have gone a different way, and you had that smile, you did your dance, you waved to his mother in the car when he was picking him up. That is unbelievable. So I can't wait to hear some stories about all those people that you touched that come back and give you something back for everything you never asked for, but you're going to get. Thank you, Brian.
Are there any other comments at this point? If not, the question is on proposed resolution 2026-07, honoring Officer Brian Morrison upon his retirement from the Barnstable Police Department. Clerk Fletcher, can you call the roll, please?
Of course, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Frizzell,
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
just Delegate Kessin,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Harder,
Yes,
Delegate Killian, Delegate King, Delegate McKelvey,
Absolute yes.
Delegate O'Malley,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate Sampson,
Yes.
Delegate Ty,
Yes, yes.
Speaker Warner.
Absolutely.
Madam Speaker, that is, I have it at 13, 13. Oh, Delegate King did just show up. Delegate King, are you with us? No, not yet. Okay.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
All right. I assume you're a yes on this resolution, Mr. King?
I'm
Yeah,
going to
okay.
abstain since I haven't been listening to what was going on in this thing, so I'll just abstain for this vote.
Understood, sir. So, Madam Speaker, that's 13 representing 88.27% of the county's population.
The motion passes. Officer Morrison, thank you for many years of faithful service and our best wishes for your retirement. I didn't have the privilege of knowing you in service, but have heard nothing but glowing remarks about your character, which is the foundation of a professional with whom you would all want to have as a colleague. So we are thrilled that you've given all this time to the Barnstable County, and we look forward to what you might be doing in the future. Okay, can we get a picture with Frank and the yeah. They got it? Did you get it
I
already?
did. You want to ask if he wants to see?
Oh, would you like to say something, sir?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me here today. I appreciate it. again, my whole career, I was just, my father taught me when he got me into policing, he said, just do everything you're supposed to do. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And one thing he always told me is when you're working the detail or on the road, always tip your hat to the ladies and wave to the men. And I still hold that dear. So I was blessed to stay healthy enough to stay in policing for so long, more than 30 years, and just blessed to work with the community. And again, I couldn't do a lot of the stuff I did throughout my career without the support of the community. So I thank everyone in the community, my colleagues, the administration for allowing me to go out and be in the community and do what I do. So thanks to all of you, and I appreciate this immensely. Thank you.
Could we get a picture with that?
I can, well, we can take one more.
One more. Excuse us, we'll do one more.
Again, from County Seal.
Yeah, actually, well.
Yeah, come this way.
You can stay in the back of them.
No.
The whole group.
Whatever you wish.
Just so you don't think. Not natural to think that's. No.
I didn't realize, I think you were. When you're. It's another next one. I know, but.
Yeah, I'll get it there, John, you get it there.
Rob Gallagher fixed what wonderful installation. Thank you. That you said at the same time, right? Yes.
See how good of a photographer I am.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Nice to meet all of you.
Great thing is he retired yesterday, but he's at the youth camp today.
Absolutely.
Let's see. All right. This way?
Two more parts to finish.
Okay, great. Okay. The assembly will now convene. Next on the calendar are reports of officers and committees. The first report is from the Assembly Standing Committee on Finance. Dean Omen is chair of the committee. Can you please read the report for the meeting of June 22nd, 2026?
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. Of course I will. Okay, this is an oral draft report for June 22nd, 2026 meeting. The Standing Committee on Finance convened for a virtual meeting, remote participation only, on Monday, June 22nd, 2026 at 4 p.m. During the session, the committee evaluated multiple financial and long-term fiscal strategies. The main topics discussed include these following terms. Proposed ordinance 2026-15, authorizing the rescission of a portion of the borrowing authority previously approved under ordinance 24-01 for the Cooperative Extension AmeriCorps Vehicle Replacement Project in the amount of $6,634.25. We also discussed proposed ordinance 2026-16, authorizing the rescission of the borrowing authorization previously approved under ordinance 22-09 for the Cape Cod Commission Capital Building Project associated with the purchase and renovation of an office and main space in the amount of $4 million, and would further authorize the project to instead be funded through the use of restricted balances within the Cape Cod Environmental Protection Fund, CCEPF, the same amount of $4 million. And thank you for your comments on for the gentleman in the audience. It's not a new building; it's a refab building in Barnstable. So, just to let you know, I can now speak. Proposed ordinance 2026-17, authorizing the Dredge Enterprise Fund Capital Program to rescind the borrowing authorization previously approved under ordinance 2025-01 in the amount of $150,000 for the replacement of a CAT engine on a booster station, and to authorize the repurposing of the remaining authorized unused and/or unexpended bond proceeds in the amount of $76,613.01 for the Cat Engine Capital Project Enterprise Fund. Next, proposed ordinance 2026-18, authorized general fund budget transfers totaling $81,500 and for the purpose of funding information technology salaries and $1,500 for laboratory, and that's for $1,500, and laboratory supplies for $80,000. As the public knows that these supplies go up dramatically and there's no predicting them in the budget. So that's why we approved that. Discussion regarding the Cape Cod Regional Government Revenue and Expenditure Long-Range Projections and Planning. We want to talk about salaries and fringe benefits, stabilization, other special revenue funds, and fiscal forecast for fiscal years 2027-2036 to the policy considerations thereof. The committee also reviewed the 4 proposed ordinance and ultimately voted 4-0 to recommend all of them to the full assembly for adoption, with 3 of the ordinances requiring targeted amendments. Proposed ordinance 2026-15 advanced without changes as a routine housekeeping measure to rescind leftover borrowing authorizations. Proposed ordinance 2026-16, the committee recommended an amendment adding technical budget language and mandate any future transfers of unexpended capital funds must receive formal assembly ratification. Both ordinances 2026-17 and proposed ordinance 2026-18 would be amended to remove the non-essential background narrative and unnecessary wording to ensure the legislative text remains precise. The committee noted that these collective rescissions and transfers serve to organize balance sheets, prevent unnecessary borrowing, and cover accrued expenses and unspent line items without requiring a supplemental budget. Following the legislative items, the committee also engaged in a detailed review of the regional government's long-range financial projections, focusing heavily on the structural deficit projected to reach $1.2 million by fiscal year 2028 and escalate further in subsequent years. Discussions explored various mitigation strategies such as altering employee health insurance and cost-sharing ratios, evaluating core mission staffing against municipal competition, contracting outside firms for basic information technology responses, and determining the appropriate use of reserve and stabilization funds, thank you, to offset the escalating debt service. Concluding that eliminating the deficit would require a multifaceted approach rather than a single solution. The committee agreed to dedicate future meetings to thoroughly analyzing these options and establishing consensus on budget instructions by September. Madam Speaker, I move approval of this report as written.
Dean Omen, I think we'll go, if it's all right, we'll go through them one by one. And
Sure.
Have a
Okay,
vote.
then I move to approve ordinance 2026-15 as written.
Second.
There is a motion with a second to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-15. Is there any discussion on that motion? As the mover, I'd like to recognize, there's no motion, is that, okay. Okay, I'd like to recognize Dean Omen first, if he would like to speak. Dean Omen?
I think it was relatively done precisely enough already. So
Okay,
I have
very
nothing
good.
to add. It's a routine.
Any further discussion? I see no one who wants to speak. The question is whether to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-15, authorizing the rescission of a portion of borrowing authorization previously approved from ordinance 2024-01 for the Cooperative Extension AmeriCorps Vehicle Replacement Project in the amount of $6,634.25. Clerk Fletcher, can you please do the roll?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Freisel,
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Delegate Gessen,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Harder,
Yes.
Delegate Killian, Delegate King,
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate Sampson,
Yes.
Delegate Ty,
Yes.
Speaker Warner.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, that's 14 delegates voting yes, representing 91.15% of the county's population.
The motion passes. I now recognize Dean Omen to address the second recommendation from the Assembly Standing Committee on Finance meeting report for January 22nd, 2026.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-16, authorizing the rescission of the borrowing authorization previously approved under ordinance 22-09 for the Cape Cod Commission Capital Building Project associated with the purchase and renovation of office and meeting space in the amount of $4 million. And I would further authorize the project to instead be funded through the use of restricted balances within the Cape Cod Environmental Protection Fund, the CCEPF, in the same amount of $4 million.
Second.
There is a motion with a second to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-16. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Madam Speaker.
Yes, go ahead.
Essentially, this $4 million was going to be borrowed at a great cost to the county. And the Cape Cod Commission, under some discussion, decided to take it out of their stabilization fund. So it saves the taxpayers of Barnstable County a significant amount of money going forward. And I would move to recommend that as said.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mike.
All right. There is an amendment. I move to amend proposed ordinance 2026-16 by inserting at the end of the ordinance the following sentences. In section 3, authorized under section 2 of this ordinance may not be transferred or expended for other purposes other than without prior written approval of the Board of Regional Commissioners and the ratification of such approval by a majority vote of the Assembly of Delegates. Such ratification may be by resolution.
Second.
There is a motion with a second to amend on proposed ordinance 2026-16. Is there any discussion on this motion? As a mover, I'd like to recognize Dean Omen first, if he would like to speak. Dean Omen?
I think this amendment was really definitely clearly stated, and I have no amendment to that. No
Okay,
additional.
any further discussion? The question is on amending proposed ordinance 2026-16 by inserting at the end of the ordinance the following sentences. Section 3, funds authorized under section 2 of this ordinance may not be transferred or expended for other purposes without the prior written approval of the Board of Regional Commissioners and the ratification of such approval by a majority vote of the Assembly of Delegates. Such ratification may be by resolution. End of quote. A yes vote is one in favor of amending the proposed ordinance, and no vote is one in favor of leaving the proposed ordinance unchanged. Clerk Fletcher, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Frizzell,
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Delegate Gessen,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Harder,
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
Delegate King,
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate Sampson,
Yes.
Delegate Ty,
Yes.
Speaker Warner.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, it's so much easier to say that passes unanimously.
Okay. The motion to amend passes. There's already a motion with a second on the main question. Wait, we're not doing that,
Oh,
right? We just did that.
no,
Now,
we didn't. It's right there.
this is one we're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, there's already a motion with a second on the main question, whether to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-16 as amended. Is there any further discussion on the main question? Okay. I see no one who wants to speak. The question is on adopting proposed ordinance 2026-16, authorizing the rescission of borrowing authorization previously approved under ordinance 2209 for the Cape Cod Commission capital building projects associated with the purchase and renovation of office and meeting space in the amount of $4 million. And would further authorize the project to instead be funded through the use of restricted balances within the Cape Cod Environmental Protection Fund in the same amount of $4 million as amended. Clerk Fletcher, can you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Friezel,
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Delegate Gessen,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Harder,
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
Delegate King,
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate Sampson.
Yeah.
Delegate Ty,
Yes.
Speaker Warner.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, that passes unanimously.
The motion passes. I now recognize Dean Omen to address the third recommendation from the Assembly, a Standing Committee on Finance meeting report on June 22nd, 2026.
Madam Speaker, I move to amend III of this ordinance. Proposed ordinance 2020. What do you got next?
Yeah.
Right. So I will go back. Jesus Christ.
Just need a motion to adopt.
Adopt.
I move to adopt proposed ordinance 2020-17.
Second.
Second, to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-17. Is there any discussion on this particular motion?
Madam Speaker,
Yes, go ahead.
I'd just like to clarify for folks, I know we're going through a lot of motions here. What happens is we get an ordinance drafted from the commissioners. It comes to us at the Finance Committee, and then we look at it and decide that there are certain things that just need some technical change in language. Unfortunately, what that triggers is then first a vote by the Assembly on the motion as it was originally sent to us, then a motion on amending it so we could put in this technical change of language. Then after we vote the amendment, we have to go back and vote the main motion. So I apologize that we go through these votes in a roll call because we're not all in the room where we have some people who are remote. So I apologize for the time consumption about this, but it's really procedural. Yeah.
Is there, yes, go ahead.
More on the procedural point raised by the deputy speaker. I think this is a point of conversation that has come up in previous discussions around ordinances, just the stylistic concerns with the way the assembly wants to see them written versus the way the administrations move forward with them. I know it also adds extra steps on the back end of it too, where since we've modified the ordinances, now the commissioners need to reapprove them, to my understanding. It might not. Either way, just my 2 cents, it might be in the interest of the assembly and the administration to have some open communication about the drafting of these ordinances before they get sent over by the regional commissioners. So maybe it might be more of a project for the leadership of the assembly, but to avoid these rewrites, which we do see with the majority of the ordinances we get received. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Speaker. We do coordinate very closely with the regional administrator and his staff, and we have discussed this. And this is just the way that it works. For those of you who've been here a long time, not everything is perfect. Legislation takes some time. And so when we get a proposed ordinance, just like any individual delegate can introduce one, the board as a whole can authorize its introduction and introduce one. It gives them access to the legislative process. Committees cannot change ordinances on their own. They can make recommendations to the body. Once you amend that, that does go to the board. They don't have to reapprove it. They can vote up and down on it. We have had some discussions with administration finance. We work very well and very closely. And so we'll work this out moving forward and try to keep this to a minimum. It is very important that these ordinances are clear, defined, It's hard to draft, just like it's hard for us to understand what maybe the departments do with substance. So we are working this out. We will work it out. And I don't expect we'll see too much more like this in the future, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Clerk Fletcher. So we're in this one now, right?
Don't move to amend, yeah.
Okay,
So we need a motion to amend if we don't have one yet.
okay, we don't have,
Right.
now we need to amend that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, I move to amend section III, proposed ordinance 2026-17, authorizing the Dredge Enterprise Capital Fund program to rescind borrowing authorization.
Hold on one second.
Well,
Well, I haven't done this yet.
So this is what it-
All right, pardon me, let me start again. I move to amend proposed ordinance 2026-17 by striking section 2 and inserting the following. Section 2, ordinance 2013-03, adopted by the Assembly of Delegates on May 1st, 2013, by approving the Board of Regional Commissioners on May 8th, 2013, and hereby amended to provide that a portion of the remaining authorized unissued amount and/or unexpected bond proceeds of $76,613.01 be appropriated for the CAT engine capital project for the Dredge Enterprise Fund and for the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto. I need a second.
I second, and I can make a quick comment, Madam Speaker. At your table, at your desk here, there is, it makes it easier to follow on. The red line of those ordinances right before you, so it makes it easier to understand what that amendment is than just hearing it. So each of you have a package of all these ordinances with a red line showing you what's been changed.
Thank you. There is a motion with a second to amend on proposed ordinance 2026-17. Is there any discussion on the emotion, on the motion? As the mover, I'd like to recognize Dean Omen first, if he would like to speak. Dean Omen?
I've said enough.
Okay.
And I move approval as amended.
The question is on amending proposed ordinance 2026-17 by striking section 2 and inserting the following section 2, ordinance 2013-03, adopted by the Assembly of Delegates on May 1st, 2013, and approved.
I think we're tripped up on language, but the red lines are at the desk. Yeah,
Red line.
yeah. So everybody's got it in front of them. It's been printed out. Yeah, so we've got the amendment. So
Okay.
so this would be on the amendment, the roll call that's about.
Okay, so a yes vote is one in favor of amending the proposed ordinance. A no vote is one in favor of leaving the proposed ordinance unchanged. Clerk Fletcher, can you please call the roll?
Is this 2026-17?
Yes, it is.
All right.
The amendment.
Okay. Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Friesel.
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Delegate Gasson,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Harder,
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
Delegate King,
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate Sampson,
Yes.
Delegate Ty,
Yes.
Speaker Warner.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, that's unanimous to amend the proposed ordinance.
Okay. There is already a motion with a second on the main question whether to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-17 as amended. Is there any further discussion on this main question? I see no one who wants to speak. The question is on adopting proposed ordinance 2026-17, authorizing the Dredge Enterprise Fund Capital Program to rescind borrowing authorization previously approved under ordinance 2025-01 in the amount of $150,000 for the replacement of a CAT engine on a booster station, and to authorize the repurposing of remaining authorized unissued and/or unexpended bond proceeds in the amount of $76,613.01 for the CAT engine capital project for the Dredge Enterprise Fund as amended. Clerk Fletcher, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Friesel.
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Delegate Gasson,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Harder,
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
Delegate King,
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate Sampson,
Yes.
Delegate Ty,
Yes.
Speaker Warner.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, that's unanimous. Two more folks.
I now recognize Dean Omen to address the fourth recommendation from the Assembly Standing Committee on Finance meeting report for June 22nd, 2026.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-18, authorize the general fund budget transfers totaling $81,500 for the purpose of funding in information technology salaries of $1,500 and laboratory supplies of $80,000.
Second.
There is a motion with a second to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-18. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
I move to amend this ordinance. I
Okay.
move to amend proposed ordinance 2026-18 by striking lines 17 and 18. That's in your packages. And on page 1 and lines 1 and 2 on page 2.
Second.
There is a motion with a second to amend on proposed ordinance 2026-18. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Madam Speaker, this is just technical and it's, but the part that's not technical is that it really protects the taxpayers' dollars, and that's why we're doing this. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? I see no one who wants to speak. The question is on amending proposed ordinance 2026-18 by striking lines 17 and 18 on page 1 and lines 1 and 2 on page 2. Clerk Fletcher, can you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Frizzell,
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Delegate Gasson,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Harder,
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
Delegate King,
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate Sampson,
Yes.
Delegate Ty,
Yes.
Speaker Warner.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, that's unanimous.
The motion to amend passes. There is already a motion with a second on the main question, whether to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-18 as amended. Is there any further discussion on the main question? I see no one who wants to speak. The question is on adopting proposed ordinance 2026-18, authorizing general fund budget transfers totaling $81,500 for the purpose of funding information technology salaries of $1,500 and laboratory supplies of $80,000 as amended. Clerk Fletcher, can you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Frizzell.
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Delegate Gasson,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Harder,
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
Delegate King,
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate Sampson,
Yes.
Delegate Ty,
Yes.
Speaker Warner.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, that motion passes unanimously.
The Assembly Standing Committee on Finance, Dean Omen, as the chair of the committee, can you please read the report of the meeting of June 29th, 2026?
Gladly, Madam Speaker. This is an oral report draft of the June 29th meeting, 2026 meeting with the Finance Committee. The Assembly of Delegates Standing Committee on Finance convened a virtual meeting on June 29th, 2026 at 4 p.m. The meeting was conducted entirely via remote participation through Microsoft Teams and was broadcast live to the public. The primary purpose of the gathering was to address the following agenda item. Discussion regarding a potential resolution to be submitted to the full assembly of the delegates of the Committee of Finance recommending guidelines to the Board of Regional Commissioners to be issued on the regional administration for preparation of the proposed FY 2028 operating and capital budgets under Charter Section 5-2 and 5-6. The committee heavily focused its discussion on addressing projected deficits for the fiscal year 2028. operating budget and evaluated strategies to offset those impending costs. Members deliberated on the potential utilization of the county's estimated $54.3 million in combined reserve and stabilization fund to absorb significant, unavoidable, and capital expenses, such as deferred facilities maintenance and PFAS mitigation. This strategy was proposed as a method to relieve the operating budget while attempting to remain within the county's internal financial policy, which limits debt service to 10% of the operating budget in order to protect its favorable bond rating. Additionally, the committee discussed personnel costs and agreed that maintaining competitive compensation is vital to retaining talent. Therefore, rather than reducing cost of living adjustments, step raises, the members suggested exploring adjustments to employee and retiree health insurance cost sharing ratios. Furthermore, the committee debated the necessity of evaluating the county's core mission to determine if regional programs such as Children's Cove could be financially transitioned or shared with other entities. The regional administrator, Mr. Dutton, provided administrative updates, notably detailing an ongoing indirect rate study designed to capture accurate overhead costs, which could allow the county to negotiate substantially higher federal reimbursement rates. Ultimately, the committee reached a clear consensus to move forward with drafting the resolution for the full assembly. As a final outcome, the committee formally requested that the regional administrator and finance director supply detailed debt service projections and stabilization fund availability to help structure an oncoming resolution.
Thank you for that report, Dean Omen, and for the heavy lifting you just did on the Finance Committee's behalf as a result of
I'm
the.
glad to donate my voice for the separate people.
The next report is from the Assembly Standing Committee on Health and Human Services. Delegate O'Malley, as chair of the committee, can you please read the report?
I will indeed, Madam Chair. The Standing Committee on Health and Human Services wishes to report that it convened remotely on June 24, 2026 to consider proposed ordinance 2026-19, establishing a Department of Emergency Management and amending the powers, duties, and responsibilities of the Department of Health and the Environment. The committee received information from Regional Administrator Michael Dutton, Assistant Regional Administrator Vira Harik, and Emergency Management Director Andrew Platt. During the meeting, the committee discussed the proposal to separate the emergency management function from the Department of Health and the Environment. Regional staff explained that the emergency management function had outgrown its public health origins and required a direct line to the regional administration for rapid decision-making during broader regional emergencies, such as winter storms and wildfires. The committee reviewed the operational impacts, noting that the reorganization would remain budget neutral by utilizing the existing 2.5 full-time equivalent personnel, period. Staff clarified that local towns would maintain their statutory home rule authority over their own emergency management operations, with the regional government continuing its strictly supportive role to augment local capabilities when local reserves are exceeded. The committee found that creating a standalone department would eliminate communication confusion with off-Cape state agencies and formally legitimize direct lines of communication with the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, MEMA. Additionally, staff and committee members noted that the independent structure would actively position the regional government to better compete for specific state and federal emergency management grants without adversely affecting current grant funding, concluding that the Department of Health and the Environment was overburdened and that the proposal provided clear structural and financial benefits. The committee voted 4 in favor, 0 opposed to endorse proposed ordinance 2026-19 and recommended favorably to the full assembly. Madam Speaker, I move to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-19, establishing a Department of Emergency Management and amending the powers, duties, and responsibilities of the Department of Health and the Environment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
There is a motion with a second to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-19. Is there any discussion?
Hand.
As the mover, I'd like to recognize Delegate O'Malley first, if he would like to speak. Delegate O'Malley?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So this department, the Department of Health and Environment, as we have already touched on in previous actions where we peeled off the Children's Cove, has had an extremely broad mandate for what its responsibilities are. That is, however, not the prime reason for this establishment of a Department of Emergency Services, and it comes down to these two realities. Number one, this Emergency Management Department really would be in the position to establish clear lines of communication with both FEMA and MEMA, the Mass Emergency Management Organizations. And those lines of communication in an emergency are obviously quite critical. And we were assured that I think a critical piece is that this would not, number one, increase staff. Number two, would not put at risk any of the existing grant funding supply sources that the department is now utilizing for emergency services. And in fact, by peeling it off and creating a structure specifically designed for and designated, structured to handle emergency situations, it is felt by the administration that this would actually enhance our prospects for specific grant funding, both federally and from the state. And so I think to us, there really was not, during the course of the discussion, there was no substantive objection to the concept, and it passed unanimously.
Thank you, Chair O'Malley. Okay, is there any further discussion on this particular proposal, ordinance? No? Oh.
Thank you. I think the committee did a fine job of reviewing this ordinance, and it seems like a sound proposal. They've touched all the important points that I would have as a concern, so I intend to support this ordinance. And
is there any further discussion? I see no one who wants to speak. The question is on whether to adopt proposed ordinance 2026-19, establishing a Department of Emergency Management and amending the powers, duties, and responsibilities of the Department of Health and Environment. Clerk Fletcher, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Delegate Frederickson.
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Friezel.
yes.
Delegate Fuller.
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher.
Yes.
Delegate Gessen.
Yes.
Delegate Green.
Yes.
Delegate Harder.
Yes.
Delegate Killian.
Yes.
Delegate King.
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey.
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley. Delegate O'Malley. Delegate Dean Omen.
Yes.
Delegate Sampson.
Yes.
Delegate Ty.
Yes.
Speaker Warner.
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley, are you having technical difficulties? We can't hear you on the ordinance.
He's muted.
You're muted, Delegate O'Malley. Well, Madam Speaker, we do have 14 representing 98.40% of the county's population.
Point of order, from Delegate Green. Is it possible that Delegate O'Malley can just do a thumbs up? I mean, it's obvious he would like to, I would think he would want to be counted.
No.
Is that possible?
Just a minute. I'll have to ask the parliament. I don't know. Is it possible for him to do a thumbs up?
Delegate O'Malley, are you still having trouble unmuting? Okay, we're gonna move on. I'll have IT reach out to him, Madam Speaker.
But, Clerk Fletcher?
Dr. O'Malley, Delegate O'Malley, try *6 if you're on your phone.
Can I be heard now? Okay, good, I'm back. Yes, I vote in favor. My computer just died, bang, out of nowhere.
That's
Okay, I'm
unanimous,
back.
Madam Speaker.
Okay. The motion passes unanimously. Next on the calendar is a report from the Assembly Standing Committee on Government Affairs and Rules. Deputy Speaker Frizell, as chair of the committee, can you please read the report?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is an oral report draft for the June 24, 2026 meeting. Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates Standing Committee on Government Affairs and Rules convened a virtual meeting via remote means only on June 24, 2026 at 4 p.m. The committee considered the following main topics during the proceedings. Proposed Resolution 2026-05, amending the Assembly of Delegates Manual of Governance and Procedures, Section 14, on procedures for consideration of proposed ordinances. Resolution 2026-06, proposed resolution supporting the voters' approval for an audit of the state legislature. During the discussion of proposed Resolution 2026-5, debate focused on rule changes regarding the assignment and advancement of proposed ordinances. Arguments in favor of the resolution emphasized that requiring a positive committee vote before advancing an ordinance would force committees to thoroughly vet, amend, and improve legislation, thereby preventing unworkable ordinances from reaching the full assembly. It was also argued that granting the clerk the power to assign ordinances subject to the speaker's approval simply codified existing custom. Arguments against the proposal stressed that allowing a small minority of committee members to stall legislation would create an unfair bottleneck, fundamentally shifting the committee's role from an advisory body to a legislative blockade. Additionally, concerns were raised that explicitly tasking the clerk with assignments rather than the speaker could place the clerk in a difficult political position in the event of disputes. Following the debate, a motion passed unanimously by roll call vote to keep the matter in committee for further discussion and revision. The committee next addressed Resolution 2026-6. Arguments in favor of the resolution framed it as a necessary defense of government transparency, accountability, and the democratic will of the voters who overwhelmingly approved the state audit ballot initiative. It was argued that the state legislature should not be exempt from standard oversight and that waiting for further court action to validate the voters' decision was unnecessary. Conversely, arguments against the resolution cautioned that such a statement was premature, given an impending Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruling and a potential legal settlement regarding the scope of the audit. Further arguments warned of the political risk of antagonizing the state legislature, which controls county funding, and cautioned against a precedent where the Assembly routinely debates state-level ballot questions that lack a direct connection to county business. A motion to favorably recommend the resolution failed on a roll call vote of 1 yes, 2 noes, and 2 abstentions. Specifically, the vote breakdown consisted of a yes vote from Delegate Killian, no votes from Delegate Oman and myself, and abstentions from Delegate Green and Delegate O'Malley. A detailed report reflecting the full discussion and exact vote breakdown will be forwarded to the Assembly. That's the report, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Wait, do we have a motion?
Can I vote on
Okay. There was no favorable recommendation on this proposed resolution from the committee. I'm going to recognize Delegate Killian as the prime sponsor of this resolution. Delegate Killian?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to adopt proposed resolution 26-06, supporting the voters' approval for an audit of the state legislature.
Second.
There is a motion with a second to adopt proposed resolution 2026-06. Is there any discussion for this motion? Yes, go ahead, Delegate Killian, since you would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the clerk could put the first graphic up for me, please. The votes, yes. Just want to call your attention to how that question was responded to by the various towns. And as you can see, it was overwhelmingly approved by virtually every town in Barnstable County. Why I brought this measure up at this time is in response to what the House of Representatives did in passing legislation to essentially subvert the will of the voters. They and just to also make the record clear, there was some discussion in our committee meeting about some Supreme Court action, which is actually not accurate. That was dismissed from the Supreme Court. And I've heard indirectly from the auditor's office, there is some action in the Superior Court, which the Senate is trying to have dismissed. So there really is no action taking place, settlements, if you will, between the two parties. So to continue with the legislation that the legislature had put forward, that is what caught my eye. The representatives who were touting this as some sort of a settlement or agreement really didn't expect people to read the legislation because it was nothing like that. And Mr. Clerk, if you could put on the next slide, please.
Give me 1 second, sir. That subsection.
Court exemption?
E or G?
G.
All right, hold on 1 second, sir. G? G.
Yes. This section, which I'll read just into the record for those who might be watching, says, notwithstanding any general or special law, to the contrary, the exclusive remedy available with respect to any dispute arising under this section shall be set forth in subsection E, which we'll reference. No court shall have jurisdiction to compel the production of records, to enforce any interview request, or to adjudicate any dispute arising under an audit conducted pursuant to this section. Essentially, what that says is the legislature will give you what we want, and if you don't like what we give you, too bad. You can't even go to court and have it adjudicated. That to me is not an audit. That's a dictation. So all of us here are subject to the rules and regulations of Massachusetts, the Department of Revenue. If they want to audit you, you don't get to tell them, pick and choose what it is you send them. If you want to go to the next slide, and it explains a little bit beyond that reference that's in there. And essentially, I won't read that one, it's a little bit more lengthy, but essentially it says what the recourse of the auditor is that they are allowed to make notations of the records and interviews which were denied. That's the only recourse that can be taken. So reading this piece of legislation, it's obvious to me that the legislature has no intention of fulfilling what the voters voted for almost 2 years ago. And I just think that it's kind of, I won't say ironic, but it's fitting that we're with a few days before our 250th birthday where we said it's going to be a government of the people, by the people. And it's become clear that we seem to have established a ruling class in this state, which doesn't seem to care to answer to the people who put them there. And so I think that these folks should be held under the same constraints, same regulations as the rest of us, and more importantly, transparency. And that's all we're asking here, is that they be allowed to have the auditor, who is not a member of the executive branch of government. They are independently elected to audit every state agency in the Commonwealth. And there is absolutely no reason why the auditor is not capable and qualified to look at the legislature. Just remember that an audit isn't simply about finances, it's about process. And I think everyone in here would admit if the auditor wanted to come in and see how we were doing business, we would throw open the doors and say, come on in. If you find some problems, tell us how we can fix them, because we're a transparent body. And that's where the legislature should be as well. They should allow the auditor to do the work that we, the voters, overwhelmingly said makes sense. It seems pretty basic to me to allow a independently elected auditor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to look to see how a legislature, which spends now upwards of $63 billion a year, be allowed to have their processes examined to ensure that the taxpayers are being looked after. Thank you.
Killian, is there any further discussion on this item? Delegate Harder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I completely agree with everything Delegate Killian said. I think it's horrendous that the House and Senate are not acquiescing to the audit, but I'm going to vote no because I don't want us to go astray and start voting on things that aren't, telling the state, we don't like what you're doing. I think that's past our mandate. Home rule petitions are one thing because they're asking the state for something for us or our towns. But just telling the legislature that we don't like what they're doing, as much as I don't like what they're doing, I don't think that's our job. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Harder. Are there any other delegates who would like to speak to that? Yes, go ahead, Delegate Rickson.
Yeah, good evening. This is really peculiar because 72% of the voters in Massachusetts voted to have an audit. And if you read the actual wording of the audit itself, it nowhere matches what the legislature, the House of Representatives put forward. It does not match. It's merely a tactic to deflect, stop, slow down, do whatever. So that in itself, as a voter, forget about whether we're from the assembly or not. That's almost like insulting to us voters. Like, they represent us. And if you look at the way that vote went in the House, it's actually the opposite of the general public. Over 75% of the representatives voted in favor, which is completely opposite of the general population of hundreds of thousands of voters. And that, I can use derogatory terms, but I don't want to. I am friends with a lot of the legislators on both sides, whether it's the Senate or the House. And when you speak with them individually, especially on the House side, you get you have to understand how politics work, how bills move, how you have to take care of one thing. If certain people in power want it, you have to go one way and have to speak in unison. And it's just disappointing that most of the reps and senators know that this is the wrong thing to do. It's disappointing. And as far as the Assembly of Delegates go, I think it's a good opportunity. I'm not worried about what the legislature does or doesn't do for us, because they're going to do whatever they want anyway. And we are all friends with them to a degree. And trust me, to get legislation passed is not easy. It is not easy. So this is merely echoing, reinstating that our constituents on Cape Cod voted overwhelmingly. I don't know what the final total, you can put it out there. Call it 60%, call it 75%. I don't know. It's overwhelming, and that we as this body should just let them know that we support the constituents on Cape Cod. I think it's an appropriate action for us to take, and there's no offense needed that we are given to the legislature. We're just saying, hey, we need to stand up for ourselves. We talk about celebrating our birthday when we actually stood up for ourselves, right? Well, this is it. I mean, you're a couple days away from celebrating that momentous occasion. So we should just let them know, hey, you got to listen to us. We're not being heard. And it's as clear as a bell. So thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Frederickson. Are there any other? Yes, go ahead, Delegate Sampson.
I hate to jump into this. I absolutely totally agree with the theory of it. The citizens that voted 72%, unbelievable. It is embarrassing that our own legislators did not vote on behalf of the people, but voted on behalf of the leadership in the legislature. Now, Frank, you and I both know that we both have experience up there. This is a confrontation between the auditor and the leadership in the legislature. The House has already voted. So I'm not sure why are we doing this. It's not like we're going to send it to them and they're going to change their vote because we sent up this document. Okay, so are we just notifying them of our opinion? If that's it, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but this is not a county issue. And knowing the leadership up there, you're absolutely right. Our local legislators could care less what we do because they're going to vote whatever they want for the leadership. But we do have legislation up in Boston. You know, we're trying to get grants for the dredge and other things. And I don't want to jeopardize any of those. I still want to work on behalf of our residents here to get the best that we can for them. And so for that reason, I would vote no, but I am curious, what do you hope to accomplish by this? They're not going to take a new vote.
Go ahead, Delegate Frederick.
Mayor, I think the accomplishment is pretty straightforward. It is a House bill that was filed and voted on. It is going over to the Senate, but unlikely there'll be any action on it whatsoever. However, they can also comply with the mandate from the public and let them know that we matter. If we don't say anything, like, what are we doing? We just let it go. Let it go and be afraid of what they're going to do in the future. It's nothing wrong. I mean, whether you're a family or an organization, and it's best to have open discussions and let people know how you feel. If we can sit there and smile and say, hey, thank you for voting against the will of the public, that's okay. We'll just move on. But it's also nice to let them know we support our public. That's what it is. And with the Senate, they've started to cooperate, but they sent in the language that says, hey, we're going to do as little as possible. That does not really match the mandate, the law that was passed by our voters.
Thank you, Delegate Frederick and Delegate Killian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Transparency in government either matters or it does not. And it clearly does not matter to the leadership in the legislature currently. And I have to shake my head to think that we can't remind them of that for fear they may take retribution against us. Who's in charge? We set up this government so that we were in charge, the voters. And clearly they need reminding of that. Over 9,000 people in my town voted for this ballot question. This is why I'm here today. They put me here, and I'm here speaking for them. There have been numerous occasions that this assembly has passed resolutions with opinion on one subject or another, totally unrelated to county government. So this is not necessarily out of the norm for what we do. It's clearly we're speaking, trying to speak in one voice to say that it really does matter. Because my feeling is if they do this and they continue to push this down the road, which I think they're trying to, will they ever listen to us again? What ballot question next will they just simply choose to ignore? The graduate income tax passed with the slimmest of margins, but they had no problem implementing that as soon as possible. I can't think of a better measure to hold the legislature accountable for than complete and total transparency. If we relinquish that, if we're willing to relinquish that, saying, well, there's nothing we can do about it, let's just let it go and hopefully they'll treat us right next time. We've gone down a very slippery slope and one we will never come back from.
Thank you, Delegate Killian. Is anyone else? Oh, yes, excuse me, online. I have Delegate Green.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will reiterate some of the things that I said in committee. I do agree with a lot of what has been said by Delegate Killian and Delegate Frederickson. I think transparency is critically important. I think that checks and balances in government are critically important. And I also think the legal system is critically important in a democracy. I've been around the assembly long enough to know historically I was a citizen advocate, and the Assembly of Delegates actually created a special committee. The only person on the assembly now that was on the assembly at the time is Dean Oman. But he was actually on that special committee, and the special committee found great fault with what actually the Cape Light Compact and the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative were doing, and how it was adversely impacting the citizens in Barnstable County. Their report was scathing. I encourage you to go look at it. And it was brought before the full assembly. The full assembly voted to send it on to the Inspector General and the Attorney General. Even though the Inspector General said that the Cape Light Compact was doing illegal things, and asked that the Attorney General have consequences. It didn't happen as far as what I saw. I still, however, support a strong legal system in a democracy. And I think that there should be legislative accountability to the voters. And I urge the legislature to review what our discussion today. And I hope someone will send this on to them to hear what we have to say. No matter which way the vote goes, and I will only vote present because I am holding two things at the same time. I do think that this is actually very serious, and it has been going on for a long time. And I think that this is, that the voters have spoken, but we need a democracy as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Green. Delegate O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've heard from several amongst us who have expressed the concern that we're reaching beyond what our regional focus ought to be, that in attempting to express some sense about how the state government functions and monitors itself, that we're out of our league. And I would have to say, it seems to me that in a democracy, the voice of every citizen about how their government is working has a valid point, has a place. It needs to be listened to, every single one of us. And in particular, where the county has voted and where every one of our towns have supported this, it seems to me that as the regional government, it's our responsibility and role to amplify that voice. Will it change anything? Not necessarily. That doesn't mean we shouldn't say it. If what's going on there is blockading a legitimate inquiry into the operations of the house of Beacon Hill, then clearly we have a role and responsibility to transmit that to them and to say it, and not to give in advance and worry about how they might threaten us. We're seeing how that's happening at the federal level, and people are complying in advance for fear of losing favor. Well, I think we have to call we have to call the cards the way we see them. And I think we all recognize that what's going on here is that the voters clearly expressed a desire for the auditor to really look into the specifics of how the State House functions. And I think we ought to put our own voices behind that.
Thank you, Delegate O'Malley. Are there any other delegates who? Sorry. Delegate Gessen, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I applaud the sponsors of this resolution for moving forward with something because you believe it's the right thing to do. And I'm hearing really two strong arguments come out in favor of this proposal by the sponsors of it. The first of which is, be it as it may, that this policy concern goes beyond what our regional government was created to do. It's still an important enough thing to address. And so you're encouraging the Assembly to move forward with it and to address this issue because it's the right thing to do. And the second argument I'm hearing is we can't allow fears about retribution or funds getting cut off from dissuading us from doing the right thing. So I look forward to voting yes on this resolution because I agree with those arguments. And I hope that when time comes to discuss the ICE ordinance yet again, we don't forget that we were making these arguments about dealing with issues greater than the county and not allowing fear of retribution of funds lost from dissuading us from doing the right thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate Gessen. Okay, Delegate, no. Deputy Speaker Frizzell, go ahead.
Whatever. So I'm just curious, I've heard from Delegate Killian something which I was not aware of. It was my understanding from the latest that I read that there was a settlement with the auditor and the attorney general representing the legislature, I guess. I'm not sure who she's representing correctly, but there was at least a settlement proposal between the attorney general and the auditor that was pending with the Supreme Judicial Court. And that from what I had read, the auditor was, or the attorney general, I think, and the auditor were satisfied with 4 different parcels of information that were going to be released to the auditor. That was part of what the SJC was looking at and wanted a settlement. So now I'm hearing from you, Delegate Killian, that that's not true. So what I read in the paper was false. And that you have some additional information now about what's going on in the legal action between the Attorney General and the auditor. So I'd like to know the source of that information if I could.
If I can, Madam Speaker.
Yes, go ahead.
I heard indirectly through my state representative, Stephen Exaros, when I told him I was proposing this resolution. And he contacted their office directly. And that's when I got the report back, because I specifically asked about the questions you had risen up in our committee. And essentially was told that the Attorney General was asked to step aside of this, that it wasn't her fight, if you will. And that any action that was taking place in the Supreme Court had been moved out and over to Superior Court. And that is where what is currently being adjudicated, where I'm told the Senate was trying to dismiss the case. They in no way indicated that there was any sort of settlement taking place or taking shape at all. So I can understand how stories get out into the press and sure, we're negotiating. We see it in with Iran all the time. They're always talking about making deals and suddenly there isn't a deal. So where it lies, I don't know. All I know is what I've been told from the auditor's office indirectly, that there is no settlement forthcoming.
Thank you, Delegate Killian. Delegate Tartar.
Diana excuse me, Auditor DiZoglio has not reached an agreement. She is still demanding. Her tagline is, "Where the hell is my audit?" And that is still her demand. So she has not come to any agreement with the final agreement. Thank you.
Deputy Speaker Frizzell.
Gentlemen, you haven't spoken.
No, we all want transparency, and I would like it at the federal level as well, but it doesn't seem to be going that far. but that's another issue, I guess, for this assembly to decide in the future. I think it's not in our purview. It's sort of an empty voice into the cavern. But we do have, as citizens of Cape Cod, if 72% want this statewide, elections matter. Unelected people that are not doing their job. That's a much more direct way and a much stronger way to do this. If this is that important, then this is an election coming up in November, vote them out.
Okay, Deputy Speaker Frizzell.
Yeah, I was, and still am troubled by our taking up time, to discuss this matter and ballot questions, because there's so many ballot questions, so many policy issues that we could take up here, and I don't think that's our function. Personally, I voted, on this. I was one of the people who voted yes to, support this ballot question. And I still support, this ballot question. There's, I think, some very serious potential constitutional questions. Where I'm really annoyed, though, I'm generally annoyed at the way the leadership behaves. But what really annoyed me the most is the House passing a provision that removes judicial review of anything which transpires with respect to this dispute. That, to me, the more I think about it, is like a bridge too far. And I don't like it at the federal level. We've been seeing that on a regular basis in the last 2 years, where we have this fight over what the Constitution means and what the courts are entitled to interpret and handle. I really don't want to see the legislature try to take away the authority of the judicial branch. That's an important check and balance. So I reluctantly, because I don't like the idea of our taking time and effort on matters that aren't closely related to the business of this government here, reluctantly going to vote yes on this resolution, because I believe that provision in the House should never see the light of day, in my view.
Delegate Green.
Thank you.
And this will be, excuse me, this will be the last comment. And
Yeah. I just think that I do appreciate these discussions, and Delegate Frizzell just changed my mind. I mean, he's right about that. He's absolutely right. Thank you.
Okay, okay. I'd have to say that. Okay, I see no one who wants to speak further in the assembly. We already had an open session on this, sir. That was the opportunity to speak to it. When was that? So we're not going to open it again for another public hearing. I beg your pardon? Okay, do I have the question is whether to adopt proposed resolution 2026-06, supporting the voters' approval for an audit of the state legislature. Clerk Fletcher, please call the roll.
Delegate Frederickson,
Yes.
Deputy Speaker Friedel,
Yes.
Delegate Fuller,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher. Can you unmute, sir?
Yes.
All right. Delegate Gasson,
Yes.
Delegate Green. Delegate Green? Delegate Green, can you hear us?
Yes,
Delegate Harder. Oh, you're a yes, Delegate Green?
yes, it just all of
Okay.
a sudden disappeared. Okay.
Delegate Harder?
You changed my mind. Yes.
Delegate Killian?
Yes.
Delegate King?
Yes.
Delegate McKelvey?
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley?
Yes.
Dean Omen?
Yes.
Delegate Sampson?
Yes.
Delegate Ty?
Yes.
Speaker Warner?
Yes.
That's unanimous, Madam Speaker.
Next is orders of the day. There are none for this particular meeting. And next on the calendar is new business. Clerk Fletcher.
To get proposed home rule petition sponsored by Delegate Gessen, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
And I think Delegate Gessen's trying to recognize.
Delegate Gessen.
Yes, I'll be super brief. I submitted a proposed home rule petition 26-2 to the clerk. We've heard about it in public comment today in some fraction of it. So I'm glad to see the public is paying attention and tuned on it. Essentially, the short of it is the home rule petition would put a surcharge on second homes, non-owner occupied homes on Cape Cod in order to provide mortgage assistance for year-round residents. The home rule petition is in its nascent stage and I don't, as the sponsor, expect it to move anywhere fast, but I think it's an important conversation for this assembly to have. And I would encourage delegates to review the final draft that was sent out recently to the delegates in their inboxes. If you have questions, you can always feel free to reach out. And if you're interested in co-sponsoring it, interested in providing revisions or anything else, please feel free to reach out. I think it's an important conversation for us to have and to see if it's something the county or the towns should move forward on. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Gessen. Clerk Fletcher, is there any? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Delegate Killian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to make the motion that we move this into our government regulations and rules committee as soon as possible so that we can begin the review process.
So that's a motion to refer, Delegate Killian,
Yes,
to Government Affairs. We keep changing the
I
title.
know.
Governmental Affairs and Rules, I believe is what it is now.
Okay.
So it's a motion to refer. Yes, it is. It's Governmental Affairs and Rules. Got a motion on the floor? Does it have a
Okay.
second?
Have a second?
Second.
Second.
Madam Speaker, that's not on the agenda. It's just new business will be in the future.
Yeah.
Under our rules, we've got a provision that the assembly can decide when a public hearing is going to be, or the speaker can do it without the assembly. So under new business, someone can make a motion. It's not a substantive thing. It's a procedural thing. So if you wanted to do that, now would be the time. For example, when a proposed ordinance is introduced, that would be the time that you'd reject it if you wanted to reject it. So I think it is, of course, it's up to the chair to rule on this, but it is, I think, under our rules in order to refer it somewhere as an assembly.
I definitely think if this is going to be discussed, it should be discussed in committee, but I don't think government affairs is the right place. We did the other housing thing in economic affairs, and we also touched on it somewhere else, but I don't think it should start in government affairs because it's not regulatory. I don't think that's where it belongs. I'm not sure where it belongs, but I don't think it belongs in government affairs.
Did both of you have your hands up or no? No, okay.
I'm going to keep it brief. I think when we changed the structure of government affairs, there was a lot of conversation around what that committee is going to handle. I think we got some assurances from our leadership that this was not going to be a substantive policy committee and that we shouldn't be concerned about the change in the makeup of government affairs because substantive policy would remain with substantive policy committees. And I remember myself and a number of other delegates having significant concerns about creating a committee solely based on tenure that is going to have the ability to deal with these significant questions. And we were assured that's not going to be the case. And based on those assurances, I supported restructuring the Government Affairs Committee. So one meeting post, I think now we're putting those assurances and that discussion to the test because this is some substantive policy. This is a home rule petition to help people on Cape Cod afford homes. And we were told that that is clearly something that would go to a committee like Economic Affairs, which has dealt with housing policy heretofore. And I would be really surprised if we decide to change tracks after the lengthy conversation we had about the committee we're going to create. So with that, I'm going to oppose this motion. And then I'm not going to make a motion to refer it to any committee if that fails. Instead, I'll trust our leadership to refer it to the proper committee. Thank you.
Delegate Frederickson, please.
Yeah, good evening. A couple of weeks ago, I submitted some documents that are out for review that may directly impact how we handle such matters. We were awaiting an opinion before I filed anything officially. So my instincts are, I gave you a smorgasbord of items that we get the opinion on those to see, because they may be competing motions or
Okay.
ordinances. So that's just where I, from my perspective on those items, it may conflict with what we're trying to do with
I
this.
understand. And we have sent it to the attorney, so we'll find out where it stands with them at this point.
Thank you.
Is it,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My decision on this particular committee, because I felt they would be best prepared to find out what other committees this is going to be in. Clearly, it'll probably end up in economics, in finance, but I thought it was a good starting point to have a discussion on where the points of discussion and inquiry should be. So from there, I know it's going to go into other committees, but I just figured that would be the best place for it to start. And we're getting on it right away. So rather than wait 2 weeks to the next meeting to discuss it, we can begin the subcommittee process right away.
Delegate O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm in agreement with the remarks by Delegate Gessen. I think it was quite clear in the discussion of this examining the role of Committee on Government Affairs and Rules, that that committee was going to be tasked with the internal operations of the Assembly, how we conduct our own business, what our own procedures are to be. And I think this proposed resolution or ordinance is clearly beyond the scope of that. So I would oppose the referral to GAR.
Delegate, Deputy Speaker.
I'll answer to either. I'm going to oppose this as well. I mean, when I look at the mandate for the Government Affairs Committee, it's for rules principally, an organization of government. I don't find this ordinance falls within that, and I didn't think we were trying to create a committee to decide where ordinances should go. So I don't think that was the purpose of the committee or its charge. So I'm going to be consistent, where I spoke before and assured members that this was not intended to be a committee to take on the substance and work of other standing committees, nor to make a decision as to which standing committee this substantive matter belongs. I think has been the decision of the Speaker as to where to assign ordinances, which can be overridden, I know, by this body. But in any case, I don't favor putting this in the Government Affairs Committee. I don't think it's the job of the Government Affairs Committee to deal with this matter.
Delegate Frederickson.
I have a question. I'm just so new at this still. Like, if we did nothing on the motion, what happens from here? Do we just have informal discussions, or what happens? I don't understand.
Well,
if it's not assigned to a committee. The way I
usually
thought I heard,
the committee assignment is not usually done the day that it comes to the Assembly for the first time. Since many may have received it, but not had the opportunity to really look at it or even call Dan and ask, Delegate Gessen and ask some questions about it. What we do about it is we follow the procedure, but we currently, unfortunately, or I think we do, we have a motion and a second on the floor. So unless the second is withdrawn and the motion is withdrawn, is that correct?
So my understanding of our rules on this is that I've been here since 2021, the county since 2016. The first home rule petition we did this session is the first one I've ever seen. And ordinances, you would have more of a sense of what happens with this. It's just a free for all. And so I don't know what happens after this.
May I?
Yes, Delegate Frederickson.
Delegate Gessen, could you, I thought I caught at the end, you were just throwing this out there for the time being.
My understanding is we've treated home rule petitions a lot like ordinances, so I know the clerk isn't sure what we would do with a home rule petition had this been an ordinance, or had we, if we treat this like we do treat everything else, folks introduce an ordinance into the assembly. If a referral is not made, then the speaker and the deputy speaker decide as a leadership where to assign it, like we do with every other ordinance. So that when, you know, the finance committee meets and discusses the 4 ordinances that they just discussed, those ordinances ended up in finance committee because the speaker made the choice that that's where they belong. So if we do nothing, then the speaker, and I assume the deputy speaker, however they want to do it, the speaker gets to assign what committee it would go to, rather than the full assembly.
Delegate Killian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I put this out there through that committee just as to get the conversation started. When, in some of our committee meetings, it has been expressed that perhaps the full assembly should get more involved in assigning these matters to specific committees rather than just leaving it to the speaker. So the members here have expressed a concern with putting it in this particular committee, but I'm certainly willing to withdraw my motion if we can agree on what committee to send it to. We can start out with economic affairs. I have no problem either way, but I thought the first one would be the way we decide where to send it to. But I'm looking to bring this discussion to the full assembly rather than just leave it up to the speaker. It seems like that is the more of an appetite in here to do that. So I will withdraw my motion. Okay, but I'm willing, yep.
Yeah,
Madam Speaker, I'd
I'll
like to
withdraw
remove
my second.
To remove my second.
And I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
And so we
Done.
can have a further discussion. It seems like perhaps economic affairs.
No, I would prefer to follow the procedure than the way that we normally would, which is to take it in, have people have an opportunity to look at it and then make a decision as to where, yes.
Just for a point of parliamentary education, you guys are not allowed to talk once you convene without a motion, unless it's for a report or something. So just general discussion, not good. And having a long discussion about an item, to Delegate Fuller's point, if you're referring it or it's procedural, fine. If you're gonna have a substantive discussion about the item, not fine.
Okay. So thank you. We've withdrawn that. So we'll move on.
Good deal. O'Malley has his hand.
Well, but we, no. Is there, are there any announcements, Clerk Fletcher?
Other than enjoying your 4th, I know that we have some things in the work with the Telecommunications Committee. And it seems like we're always busy. So you'll be hearing from the Assistant Clerk and I about the next committee meetings we will have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further announcements? Delegate O'Malley, do you have an announcement?
Not that I know of. I can't get the hand down. No, I don't have the hand down.
That's perfectly all right. Thank you. Okay. Delegate Harder, do you have an announcement?
I just want to mention for those of you who've ever worked with our congressman that we lost Chris Matthews this week. And so I'm sending our respects, paying our respects to Chris Matthews, who was a wonderful staffer to our Congressman Keating. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate, sorry, Clerk Fletcher.
Please don't do that to me. I'm only responsible to you, not to the voters. I did want to, I knew Chris Matthews, and I believe they put something out already on the congressman Facebook page, but Chris Matthews was his district outreach and communications director. People who have been around the Congress's office know him very well. He passed away suddenly of a heart attack at 36 and was one of the better staffers that I know in this business. And it's a huge loss, not just to the congressman, but the Commonwealth. And then he lived in Norwell and Plymouth County, and what a guy. And more people should approach, you should go to the congressman's page and read about it. More people should approach their lives like I've watched Chris Matthews do it.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned.